All right, so in this video, I'm going to be talking about the killers of comedy, or what Artie Lang refers to as the Hack Pack, which describes them pretty well because the two who claim to be the real comedians in the group and said that they worked their way up the ranks and paid their dues as stand-ups were barely scraping by doing comedy and couldn't really sell tickets on their own, so they needed to rely on Richard and Sal from the Howard Stern Show and whack packers like Beetlejuice to sell tickets, which caused some problems in the group because the two who had been doing stand-up the longest, Shuli Agar and Bob Levy, just weren't a draw, but Richard and Sal, who had only been doing stand-up a couple of years, were already a bigger draw and making more money doing it than Bob and Shuli, even though they had been doing it for over a decade, but they still had to rely on all these other people to get fans out to their shows. Like Shuli talked about how once he stopped touring with Whack Packers, he couldn't get anybody to show up to his shows anymore.
Like if you're a professional and you know what you're doing, you do a show no matter what the numbers are. Because those 10 people, when I stopped touring with Whack Packers and I just started touring by myself, when I stopped doing the big group shows, that was a big fucking change. That was a huge change. And people were not coming out. I did a show in Florida, in Orlando, Howard Johnson's, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I think it was like 14 people, maybe 12. All these chairs set up. It's just like a row and a half of people. And listen, if I didn't start out playing to smaller numbers of those people, then I'd be terrified. I'd be embarrassed. I'd be miserable. But instead, you learn how to make 9 people laugh.
So I'd imagine problems started to arise with the Hack Pack right from the beginning. I mean, there's some behind the scenes videos of them on the road that you can watch on YouTube, and they're always complaining and getting in arguments and fighting with each other. I mean, this was a wild group of people to manage. But things really started to boil over when Richard, who had only been doing comedy for a couple of years, started complaining about some of the gigs and claimed he didn't get paid what he was owed. And Shuli basically told him he has no right to complain because he didn't start from the bottom and climb the ranks like he did, since Richard already had some notoriety from the Stern Show, which Shuli also worked for the show, but he just wasn't as entertaining and didn't get as much airtime, and he's on the news team, so people were way more interested in seeing Richard and Sal, and that's why right away they started making decent money in stand-up, but Shuli felt like they weren't grateful enough for it since they were complaining, and they hadn't even paid their dues yet. I mean, Shuli acts like they needed to go through the same process he went through to really be stand-up comedians and have the right to complain about anything. Like when Richard started complaining about how he didn't get the money he was owed, Shuli's like, well, when I first started, I wasn't getting paid what I was owed most of the time, and it's just what comes with it. And he said the fact that Richard's even making this money is a slap in the face to all the comedians out there that work their way up the ranks. Because Richard's only 3 years into it, and he's making decent money. But when Shuli was 3 years into it, he had to move back in with his parents.
He's a guy who's new to comedy, and he hasn't gone through the ranks as most comedians have gone through. And he bitches and complains every step of the way about the gig. He has such a gift given to him comedy-wise for as long as he's been doing it, and the money he's making. When I was 3 years into doing comedy, I was making $200 a week, and I had to move back in with my folks to make.
We all know that.
Right.
Everyone in this room knows that.
Yeah,
right. And so this guy hasn't.
I believe he's still living with his folks.
Paid his dues. Bottom line.
in the basement.
And he's sitting here bitching and moaning as if he's headlining the show. Working here at Sirius, he without a doubt makes more money than I do. I know that for a fact. If I had to
Now,
live,
what's that got to do? Why is he looking in Richard's
Yeah, it
pocket?
doesn't matter. That does not matter.
That just doesn't matter in any of this.
and the comedy's a huge thing for me, but it's such a kick in the face to every comic who's gone through the ranks that this guy A is making more than you are, and B could give a shit about it, just wants the paycheck and that's it, and really isn't doing it because he wants to do it, and that to me, it put me in a really shitty mood the whole night.
They left, both of them went home.
Every time I looked at him, I was just getting more and more upset, and I didn't want to get into it with him, and I was just really pissed off because, you know what, we're all up there busting our ass. We've all come through the ranks.
Working as a team.
There's shows that I didn't get the money that I was promised, but you just kind of got to take it and just go with it. How long you been doing comedy, Richard?
Like 2 or 3 years now.
Okay, so the money you're making for doing this for 2 or 3 years is a gift that's fallen in your lap.
Yeah, but
Shuli, that's not his
bullshit.
problem. That I disagree.
What do you mean? If
with
he can get
that's
that
not
money,
his
he
problem.
gets it. Yeah, I mean that's just
fine, but all I'm
what is this?
saying is
You're so envious with this gift that he's being given, and
I appreciate it too. I just sometimes I have some questions.
These guys have a problem that'll never go away. They need each other.
right.
Richard and Sal get the plugs on the show, but between the two of them, they can't do more than 15 minutes.
Right.
The thing I don't want
But Shuli, you got to understand, it's not about. I know guys who could do 3 hours of stand-up and they're not a draw. I'll give you a real extreme example. If Howard agreed to show up and say hello to the crowd for 10 seconds, who's getting paid the most money?
Right.
It's not
absolutely.
Well, exactly. So it's not about that. It's about the fact that Richard is a celebrity from the show, and you have to respect that. And Richard and Sal have to respect the fact that, you and Bob could do an hour and a half on your own, and you got to somehow get into a happy ground.
thing is, too, like, I didn't even know that Shuli made less money than me at these shows until he said it on Miserable Men. I think Shuli deserves as much as me, but, I mean...
You better start running your own show, Richard.
Yeah, Richard, don't say that. Don't say that.
You are not producing anything. You don't know anything. You're saying this off the top of your head.
If I have to hear one more half-assed comedian talk about coming up through the ranks and wear it like it's some big fucking badge of honor. You know what? Every career has the same thing, and some people shoot to the top quicker. Extenuating circumstances play into the game. A badge of honor. We did clubs. We've been doing it for 20 years, making $8. Well, get another fucking job. Quit whining, bitch.
Yeah, and like I already pointed out, the reason Bob and Shuli were important is I think they're running the tour, first of all, but also they're the ones that actually had some material. Like people would show up to see Richard and Sal in the Whack Pack, but then somebody still needed to put on a show. So Richard and Sal needed to get better at stand-up so they could just do their own thing. And at one point, Sal started working with a comedy coach or a mentor or something. And somebody figured this out and told Howard that Sal was going to comedy school and he's trying to learn the science of comedy. And Sal just lost it.
I heard Sal goes to comedy school.
Hold on. I don't go to comedy school. I've never gone to comedy school.
You go to comedy school.
I want to know who said that. Who blatantly lied to you again?
Gary.
All right, good. I'm glad you did. Well, then it's obviously not true. Gary, you lied to him. You had no facts, Gary.
What are all those terms that Sal uses?
Well, I heard, I don't know any of this firsthand, but I heard someone said, like, callback.
Callback.
He goes like in his act to go.
Callback?
A callback is when you make a joke and then you go back to it again.
Yeah, but that's just the science of
Those are just science.
Guess what? What does that have to do with anything? Oh, excuse me if I'm trying to work on something.
No, it's fine to work on it. It's not.
So what does that have to do with anything?
Because you come across like a tool.
How am I a tool? I don't go to the effing school, you jerk off.
You went to some sort of.
You got some comedy tutor or something.
coach.
You have a comedy guy.
Artie, please help me out here.
Sal, come clean.
I don't know.
What's a tag and what's a callback, Sal?
A tag is something that you add. Just when you think a joke is over, you add an additional punchline to it, and then you might add an additional punchline, and you're tagging the punchline. Is that correct, Artie?
You see, the bit I was doing was I've been doing stand-up for 15 years, and I don't really ever use those terms.
No one does.
I don't have a comedy teacher.
Cut it out.
But you just said...
Why do you do this to me? Why do you people do this to me? Why do you keep making up crap?
This is just a
and then they want to know why I'm crazy.
It's not right.
I'm not going to comedy school. I don't have a comedy teacher. I don't have any of this stuff.
Really? I mean, seriously. Well, I can't believe. Poor me.
Walking out. Whoa.
Sal walked out.
We hit on something.
Hey,
Sal, for $1,000, I'll teach you how to be Howard's friend.
Yeah, so the killers of comedy seem to be very insecure about their comedy, and this was especially noticeable when Artie called them the Hack Pack, and this was after Dave Chappelle already called Bob Levy a hack. If you remember, Bob tried to call out Dave for stealing one of his jokes, and it was a hacky joke, so Dave's response was just, "Oh, so you're a hack?" And afterwards, Artie wouldn't let him live it down. Like, he kept bringing it up to him and making fun of him for it, because Artie told him originally not to bring it up, like he knew it'd be a bad look. And Artie definitely liked getting on his nerves. So when he was on another show, he referred to their group as the Hack Pack, and Shuli got really offended by it.
We're doing a comedy tour. It's like you're sitting there saying that basically we suck.
You're trying to sell tickets.
I don't know if I said that. You work with me all the time. Why would I put you on the show if I think you suck?
Well, that's what I was asking myself when I heard you make that
well,
comment
then you
yesterday.
might come to the conclusion that I'm joking around.
But why do you have to do it on the air all the time, man?
I'm
like,
sorry.
but like, no, it's the same thing with Levy. A couple weeks ago, you said the same exact thing about him.
Now, Hack Pack was a new thing. I thought that was funny.
Artie's come up to me personally and said, you know, he really likes when I host his shows. He wants me to host.
And how do I show that? By hiring you quite a bit.
I understand that, but then you come around and you say that on the air. It's mixed messages. It's mixed signals, Artie. You gotta,
okay, I'm very sorry. I didn't know I had another girlfriend I'm sending mixed signals to.
It's not a girlfriend. It's just somebody that
You're
I
acting
thought.
And bitchy about it.
No,
you just are.
You know what it is? If nobody would have heard it, then it wouldn't be a joke. Like it's a joke now because somebody.
You know what? Then I don't want to work with you anymore.
Well, whatever, dude.
You say now I don't want to work with you anymore.
But you
just talked yourself out of work.
It's not about work for me, dude. It's about me getting across the point that either you're with us or you don't want us with you.
I don't really think about it that much.
Well, but dude, it's kind of a shit move when you sit there and you go, "Oh, you guys want to come play Detroit with me?" And then you go, "Oh, by the way, come buy your tickets for me and the Hack Pack in Detroit."
I didn't say that. I was in the Hack Pack.
But that's the kind of pitch that you throw
it's
out
only
there.
The Hack Pack when you guys are by yourselves.
Whatever, dude.
You're acting like a broad here, man. You really are.
I'm a comic. I take offense to when somebody calls me a hack.
I know. Okay, sorry, man.
Who's the funniest member of the Hack Pack, as you call them?
Funniest member? Well, Beetlejuice, probably. I mean,
I don't doubt that.
And more recently, Shuli admitted during this argument he mostly wanted Artie to clarify his statement and leave him out of the Hack Pack. Like, he thought he'd get Artie to say that he was only referring to Richard and Sal and maybe Bob, but Artie never clarified that.
The face.
How did I trash you?
By saying the Hack Pack. I understand it's a
I'm
fun
kidding
line.
around. It was a joke. That's the point.
You always say that when we call you on it. So, and like Howard said, there's always some truth behind every joke. So what do you really feel? Is it the whole group? Is it
you made a joke?
Hey, I just got one more thing to say about that. When Artie stops talking about you, then that would be the time to worry.
Thanks, dude.
No worries. Late.
Fun selling fruit.
Well, I see that you are upset about this, Shuli.
I am, dude. I've been doing it 13 years, man. And one thing I'm not is a hack. I pride myself on my material, my originality, and for somebody to come out and say that I'm a hack, that pisses me off. Absolutely.
All right.
I went on there and said Shuli is a hack.
No, but you say that I'm part of this group, the Killers of Comedy. Whether you feel it's one person in the group, two of us, three of us, say what's on your mind, but don't generalize and throw us all in one group and say we're a bunch of hacks.
Hey, listen, Shuli, you got to stop fucking crying, man. If you didn't have Howard and Artie, you'd be fucking bagging groceries at Stop and Shop.
Well, and that's what I was doing part-time before I got here. And I realize that, and I appreciate the opportunity that I have, but I'm not going to let somebody talk shit about my comedy and say that I'm not original when I know that I am. I'm sorry. I'm going to stand up for myself.
I don't recall saying that.
That's what a hack means.
And those callers were right, because this was probably the pinnacle of their careers, and they wouldn't be anything without the show. But Richard and Sal, they still work on there, even though I don't think they have enough clout anymore to really go on the road. And then Shuli and Bob, they both left the show. Well, Bob, he never worked on there, but he was a frequent guest until he got banned because he had a meltdown when he couldn't get on the show to promote something.
We're a little too busy this month. Oh, yeah? Oh, let me see. Who the f is on then, okay? Who are these superstars?
Email
that,
from
that
who?
You can't
From
give
who?
From Gary.
Okay.
You can't give me fucking 15 minutes after all these years being your fucking guy. And it's a disgrace for them to fucking even say no to me. Everything's here. I don't need to be loyal to one fucking show for fucking all these years and get smacked in the fucking face. Nobody else that comes on to that show sits there, writes bits for nothing, does shit for nothing, comes up here to film a 10-second intro for nothing. I've been doing this for fucking years, and you ain't gonna fucking smack me in the fucking face by telling me you don't got 15 minutes for me. You know what I mean? You can't have me come in for 15 fucking minutes. I saved a whole fucking interview. I could have been every fucking radio station around the country. I saved it for Howard. Okay? And you can't have me on. Good. Fuck you, Gary. Fuck you. Listen to the same kid. I go on stage. I get the fucking pop. I get a pop as big as anybody.
And I think Howard might have given him one more shot after this, but then he threatened to kill Howard, and that was it.
Did something I shouldn't have, but I was trying to get his attention. I wasn't going to hurt him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you threatened him, right?
Well, yeah, I threatened to kill him. I had the NYPD blue at my house and suits with my my cops, they lit up the street and they just wanted to talk to me. They said the FBI is involved. This is bad, you know? And I'm like, dude, if I wanted him dead, he'd be dead. And they're like, you can't say that. And I'm like, look, I'm just telling you. And I said it again. They're like, you can't say that.
And then when Shuli left the show around 2021, he started his own podcast network, and now him and Bob do their own show where they just react to Stuttering John, and it does all right, but the stand-up hasn't gone very well. I don't think they can even sell enough tickets to do shows anymore.
Yeah, I know Shuli. He was going to
Shuli
play
Egg-
down here. He was going to play down here, but he didn't sell enough tickets, and the club that he was. I tried to midwife the deal, but I go, yeah, you should probably just bail on it.
And what was really rough for Shuli is I think maybe around a year after he left the show, he held this meet and greet where you come hang out, meet him, and get some free food. And somebody on the Howard Stern subreddit made a post about it and asked if anybody was going. And this guy's like, yeah, sure, I will. I always like Shuli. And they're like, all right, just make sure you take pictures. So when the guy got there, he made this post about it and said, just arrived at the free steak and Shuli meet and greet. Weather is shitty, so I blame that. And then he posted a picture of the setup, and I think there were about 2 fans there. But at least later on, a duck also showed up. Somebody posted a picture of this, and they said, do you think the duck had fun at the meet and greet? And of course, the comments are like, the duck is more famous than Shuli. The duck paid its dues, and I would much rather meet the duck. So people are just goofing on him, but some people did feel bad. Like the first comment under the post that shows how many fans are there, somebody's like, man, this is painful. It's actually sad to see. And the guy who's there, he's like, yeah, it's up to 2 people now, but I just like Shuli, so I'm happy to support. And he said also the food was really good. So it seems like the guy is an actual fan, but Shuli thought he was there to troll him. So when he talked about it on his podcast afterwards, he just started trashing the guy, which is just hilarious. I mean, Shuli's only fan shows up to support him, and then he just shits all over him. But he must have just seen the picture and thought like, oh, he's just trying to show that nobody's at my meet and greet and my career's falling apart. But if you read the guy's comments and the post he made about it, he doesn't seem like a troll, unless he's like the ultimate troll and he's trying to do some 4D chess move. But it seemed like he was an actual fan of Shuli's, and he wanted some free food as well.
And Saturday, we're doing the meet and greet and meet in the parking lot of Side Splitters Saturday afternoon at noon. And it just so happens Saturday happens to be like the coldest day in a long time in
Really?
Tampa. So while we didn't have the best turnout, you know what's funny is I got there, I pull up, right? And I see they're just setting up. And I see there's like one guy walking around out there that I can tell is a fan. And then I see this big fat fuck sitting in his car in the parking lot, not getting out.
Yeah.
When I say fat, I mean like if you're standing at the side of his car and you look through the driver's side window, there's no part of that window that you can see to the other side of that car. You know what I'm saying? It's like if you colored in. Yeah. It's like he tinted it with fat. That's how fat this guy was. I already know in my head what he's there for. He's not out of the vehicle. He doesn't get out when I get out. So I know what he's there for. So he's one of these guys from one of these, message boards that for their first bit was they kept calling the club to get an update on the number of ticket sales. And so it's fine. Like, I don't give a shit. The reality of it is, as a comic, you do a show regardless of the turnout. So long story short, that fat guy posted the picture and he was like, and of course, I was thinking, I'm like, this guy should get a job on the news on like CNN, because he posted it and he goes, great turnout for the meet and greet. And you can literally see them setting up like the thing, but he's going to spit like, and listen, there wasn't lines of people there. It wasn't like Sunday, but guess what? The people that did show up loved it, bought stuff. There's a lot of networking that went on there.
And then the guy actually commented on Shuli's podcast and said, I'm the huge fan that truly is a fan. I pulled up and waited 20 minutes because I didn't want to be the only person standing out there. I said nothing but positives about the meetup on Reddit. I've been a fan for years and will continue to be. Get it right. Yeah, so that had to be the funniest thing Shuli's done since he left the show. but he had to know the transition wouldn't be easy. I mean, once you leave it, it's really hard to get people to follow you on your own. So I guess at least he managed to find something that's working well for him with the Stuttering John stuff. But yeah, that's about it for this video. If you guys want more content from me and you enjoy hearing about old stories like this, I talk about a lot of stuff over on Patreon, where there are over 80 videos and most of them are over 20 minutes. So there's a lot to go through. If you're a fan of the channel and want to help support it, make sure you check it out. I'll put a link in the description.